Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Focus TV. We're so happy to be back in the studio, and there's so much to discuss, as always. Octavia, yes, you're happy to be here. We're looking forward to your segment. Yes, we are. So that's Octavia Wyatt. We got Cardell Dudley, Wilson Champe Jr., and we're joined tonight by Coach Walter Webb. We're going to talk to him in just a minute, but on tonight's show, we're going to talk a little bit about the Mystics and their current predicament right now in the semifinals. Got an update about Terrapin football after a bye week. Octavia's NFL segment. Update on D.C. United. But again, let's go ahead and get started by talking with Coach Walter Webb. All right, Coach, want to start not every former player is capable of coaching. It's something where, some think that they are. Sometimes they find out that they're not. Once they get started. Was that something that was part of your plan originally as soon as your playing career was over, or what kind of led you into it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was in a unique situation. I'm a product of my mother and father both being basketball coaches. My mom, she coached at Lackey High School in Charles County, and my father coached at Bishop McNamara. And I grew up in that atmosphere. So with that being said, my nickname was Little Coach. Most kids 3 days after being born, they go home. I went to a basketball game. So, I was born in the gym, and basically everything that I'm doing now, I've had an opportunity to watch them do. So the relationships that my parents had with their former players and administrators and things of that nature, I wanted that. I grew up with that. Some of those people are some of my best friends, and have helped mold me and mentor me, to a lot of the things that we're doing today. So, going into coaching after you're playing, something has to replace your passion. I mean, if you're an athlete, that adrenaline rush, getting ready for a game, getting ready for a season, preseason, postseason, I mean, that's just who we are, and when that's taken away from you, a lot of guys don't recover from that. I was very, very fortunate to fall into a coaching position, which, again, I was somewhat familiar with, but I didn't, do like I thought I was going to do, because playing the game, knowing the game, teaching the game, getting moving parts to do what you want them to do and to be where you want them to be, that's a completely different monster. So, I had to get educated on that, and again, dinner at my parents' house, moving salt and pepper shakers, running sets, that was reality for me. So, I could lean on, how to be politically correct, how to address a kid, how, to change my tone, to talk to my teammates. My student athletes, whether it be practice or game time or halftime, I had a crash course that was immediate every night.
All right. You've coached both men's and women's, boys and girls side of it. While they're both basketball, so they are, once you get into nuances, they're not the same game. If you could talk about just some of the nuances and how you're able to go from both, fairly easy looking at your winning record.
Yeah. I love coaching guys, but, I think a lot of people have to understand the dream job is coaching women. Women, they play the game the right way. There are a lot of things that they bring to the table. Men is the high-flying acts and, the spectacular plays. And, but women, if you're a coach, you want to see your X's and O's work. You want to see a different type of passion and camaraderie there. And women, everywhere that I've ever been, they've always done that. I've seen, by coaching both that, no matter how good the male team is, I've yet to find my best male team play as well or execute as well, right, or make in-game adjustments as well as some of the young ladies that I've had an opportunity to coach.
Coach Webb, you mentioned that you played at Bishop McNamara.
Sure.
How was it playing in the WCAC then compared to now? And how did playing in, as far as the competition as a player and the coaching, the strategy, how did that help you become what you are now as a coach?
Yeah, I think anybody that has an opportunity to play in the WCAC gets an unbelievable education as far as the game of basketball, not just to mention, academically, but, back then, I remember walking out the locker room and, playing JV and coming out the locker room and seeing my first varsity game at Bishop McNamara while being a student. And, you got Danny Ferry out there on the floor. And, it's 8 to 10 shots, everything's off the glass, everything's fundamentally sound. And, playing against Gerard Mustaf, John Gwynn, they were great players then and they're great players now. I think, the difference, we worked a little bit harder, I think. I think there was a little bit more emphasis on blue collar instead of white collar. I think right now, being a coach, I have a different lens that I'm looking through as far as young people having a sense of entitlement. Back then, we didn't have that. It was, you do this or that, and that will happen, and people would get cut, based on body language. There were no second or third chances and running extra laps. I mean, we ran laps for, missing foul shots or not executing plays. We didn't run laps for disrespecting the coach. You disrespect the coach, you disrespect the teammate, you're dismissed from the program. And I think that's the difference. But the WCAC is and forever will be, as far as I know, and from what I've seen globally, is the best basketball conference that high school has to offer. Just because you're in a conference that's a way of life. So when kids go to Gonzaga, Bishop McNamara, St. John's, I mean, they're not just playing to play. They're playing to get a job. They're playing to get a scholarship. Those kids that are playing to get that scholarship, they've invested time before they got to high school to get to that moment. So you have more and more freshmen and more sophomores that are elite guys and the key guys on varsity teams. Back then, it was so much talent that when I was playing, I mean, to be the key guy as a freshman was extremely difficult. You would have to, really search long and hard to find somebody like that.
Okay. You moved on to college, played at Virginia Union, Ferrum College.
Yeah.
Now it's the thing where a lot of kids today look down on anything but Division I. If it's not a Division I offer, they don't want to have nothing to do with it.
Sure.
Can you talk about how competitive D2 programs are, and why it's an epidemic that kids dismiss anything but Division I when they come out of high school?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just perception. TV time, look at the world that we live in with social media and all of those things. Everybody wants the major TV time. Everybody wants the visibility. Nobody wants to do anything in the dark and then talk about it. They want people to see it and create a fan base. And, Division I, II, or III, I learned, again, from my mom and dad, and family, friends that were in the game. I remember Todd Bozeman telling me that, the difference between Division I, II, and III is just the amount of students that attend the university or school. It has nothing to do with the talent level. So, if you're playing this game, you respect this game, you have to be prepared to compete against any and everybody. And, I was a guy that went to Virginia Union at a time we were ranked number 1 in the country. And at that time, Sports Illustrated did all of the rankings. Well, if you think about it, I mean, we had D1 athletes that transferred to a D2. Right. And I was a D2 that transferred to a D3. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, a lot of us, we made sure that we didn't let the game use us. We got our education, and we went on and took it a little bit farther and took the game as far as we possibly could and played at a high level. But, young people today, they need to go where universities would like to see them play. A lot of young guys are going to places based on their friendships with other players, with no relationship with the head coach or the assistant coach, and they're gambling. They're gambling and transferring and going from program to program.
Okay. After college, you went on to play pro in China. You came back and started coaching, making stops at Riverdale Baptist, which you have become a national power, Coastal Christian, and Cornerstone Christian in Texas. What was unique about each stop and the notable players you coached at each stop?
Sure. Riverdale was always going to be special for me just because it was my first.
Right.
It was my first, coaching opportunity. I learned a lot. Terry Terrell, who was the baseball coach and athletic director there, Mickey Toll, those guys gave me a chance. I was a young coach coming off from playing, and a young Afro-American coach, in PG County. At that time, we kind of ran the AAU world, but, Riverdale's a high-profile job. Pastor Mincer and those guys wanted to compete and wanted to build a program, and, that program was so special for me because, I had Terry Terrell, who was national power in baseball, mentor me. And then we had a school that was yearning for that opportunity to play at a very, very high level. So our goals matched up. After, first year, second year, third year, I kind of understood, what the expectation was and how to really go out and get kids that, one, were going to get it done and academically as well as athletically, and want to be in the gym to work, not just show up during the course of the season. Playing against Stu Vetter, playing against Steve Smith, you can play against as many coaches as you want to, but the reality was, outside of Morgan Wooten, who I knew by playing against him, Riverdale wasn't playing against the DeMathers of the world, but we did play against, Fort Union with Fletch, Montrose Christian, and Prospect Hall, St. John's Prospect Hall when Stu was there, and then Oak Hill, and I had to learn from them, and that's what I set my goal on, to beat them. Stu beat us 170 something crazy to like 20, and that was our first game, and against him, and that was the score. And a few years later, we were able to beat Stu. Of course, he was at a different school, but he still had the same guys, the same philosophy, and for me, that was just a great accomplishment. I wanted to build something. I did that, and then we went on to Coastal Christian and had an unbelievable run, 6 national championships in 5 years. I was coaching both the boys and the girls, so we had 5 national championships on the boys' side, 1 girl national championship, which we had an opportunity to play against Riverdale. And even though I knew a lot of those young ladies, when they were younger and they're competing against us the year before, we were able to come back the following year and win. And what was special about Coastal was, we had a few guys that we had at Riverdale that transferred down, and they brought some of the PG D.C. mindset, being hungry for a meal, and the work ethic to an already positive basketball environment in the 757. But they were able to complete and finish their careers there with me at Coastal and have a great run. We didn't win a national championship at Riverdale, but we were able to do a really, really good job of competing and taking on the best teams, in the country. And that was Greg Harrison, who's still doing extremely well in sports and entertainment. And then we had Anthony Garrison, who's probably top 3 point guards I've ever coached, just a young Jason kidd. And then Kevin Bell transferred from Rice High School, played with Kenny Satterfield and Andre Barrett. So, you get a guy like that down here. I mean, to me, He was the closest comparison just in his movement, his play, his stat line, to a Gilbert Arenas at the high school level. And of course, he played here locally, an American, and then finished at Bowie.
Okay. Following that, what was the motivation to start Slam City?
After winning, a national championship, after chasing a national championship for so long, and then winning, and then having the opportunity to be blessed as National Coach of the Year, a lot of people started, that's when all the negative things started coming out, like, anybody can win with those teams that you have, and you got all the talent in the world, and who can't win with 7-footers, and all of those types of things. And I accepted what they were saying because, I had one challenge when I was younger, and then there was a new challenge. And that new challenge was, okay, so, what happens if, I don't have all of those guys? And Slam City originally started when I was at Riverdale, but it didn't catch on until I really got down to Coastal Christian Academy in Virginia Beach. And it's actually an acronym that students learn and master because I teach youth. And our mission statement is, we're committed to training the overlooked to compete against the overrated. So a lot of kids get overlooked, but what a lot of those people didn't realize was 99% of the kids that I had through those years were kids that were overlooked, and kids that weren't wanted somewhere. But, through hard work and family mindset and, a lot of road trips, a lot of van trips, and them seeing that, myself along with my coaching staff and administration, that they believed in these young men and young ladies that, we could go out there and compete, and we were able to have some success from that.
That's big time. Your Slam City teams, what age do they start at and what age do they end, and what leagues do you compete in?
Sure. So, we start from kindergarten and go all the way up to 12th grade. Mm-hmm. Our niche is 8th grade and below. Right. And a lot of that has to deal with the fact that we are one of the 15 flagship members of the Junior NBA. So with that endorsement, that has to be our concentration to make a difference in the grassroots level. Right. So, we'll play in local tournaments. Of course, we host because we have our own space, and we'll bring teams in from everywhere. So we've seen the likes of everyone in our events, and that kind of helps us through the training side of things too, because we'll train Monday, Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And Saturdays and Sundays we're not training. We'll actually have events, but after watching the kids on those events on Saturdays and Sundays, we're able to then help them Monday, Wednesday. And in the summertime, we're in there 24/7, 7 days a week.
For those that don't know, break down what the Junior NBA is, because when most people think about AAU, and they think about the Nike circus and Adidas, Under Armour, stuff like that, most people not involved with basketball don't know what that is. Sure.
So the Junior NBA is a subsidiary underneath the NBA umbrella, and it is the purest, cleanest form of grassroots basketball that we know today. We're not about bashing any other organization. All we can do is talk about who we are, what we're doing, the background checks, the age verifications, the height of the rim based on, the younger kids playing. We do have certain in-game modifications that we do for the younger kids so that there's a curriculum for them to follow, to educate them and to give them the prerequisites that they need moving forward. So, from an educational standpoint, we don't go from first grade to fourth grade. You have to go first, second, third, fourth, and so forth, and graduate through this program. So Junior NBA is a program, and we're just fortunate enough to be one of the 15 to help teach and educate young people of all ages to play the game the way the game is supposed to be played. With that, obviously, our partners, USA Basketball, and coaches, NBA players, past and present, have come together with an online curriculum to help not just the players but also coaches. There are two categories Junior NBA really focuses on outside of the young athlete, and that is the coach as well as the parent. We want to educate as many people as possible because the sidelines are different. There's been a decline in officiating because it's a threatening job. I mean, people get wrapped up into winning and losing, and officials, they're out there just blowing a whistle, but they really, are giving their time. Like, is it really worth some of the things that they're subject to? So, we want to educate parents on how to act towards officials and also how to act towards their kids. And in the midst of that, teach, train, develop, but also put on events such as the Junior NBA World Championships, which was just changed over to the Junior NBA Global Championships, which is the new, if you will, mini world basketball series that you see in baseball. So the coverage that we got, equal if not more. But again, lives are being changed. We're crossing continents as far as competition. The world got an opportunity to see 2 years in a row players in the right age group competing against each other, nothing in question. NBA officials, the kids, the event itself, it's a life changer, because the kids wake up early, they have breakout sessions. If a kid knows that tomorrow morning he's going to wake up and he's going to have a conversation with Grant Hill, Dwayne Wade, and by the way, you'll also get an opportunity to see Adam Silver, and just the things that you get that you wait until you graduate from college, or if you're one and done, lucky enough to shake that hand. These things these kids are getting as eighth graders, so it gives them something to stay the course. I think a lot of times things are so far away, they think that I can get myself together in 2 or 3 years, whereas now we get an opportunity to kind of forecast for kids. Look, we're looking at what you're saying and what you're doing via social media. We're looking at your body language. These are the things that you should eat. This is the way that you should act. This is how you should dress. This is why education is important, all of those things. Junior NBA is more of an educational component set up to make sure that everybody understands what it looks like to be successful at this, if this is what you want to do.
Man, that's huge, man. I wish I would have had that when I was young. You won at every level, help change programs completely around, but you have a new challenge at John Champe. What will it take to build that program up and make that a force, not just locally, but eventually nationally?
Yeah, it's a tough job, but I'm embracing it as I have with all the other jobs. 6A, first time for the school, first time for me. I've always been in private and Christian education, so I've never been in the public school sector. So that's new for me, on a lot of different levels. And but I think we'll be fine. I think what it's going to take is just for kids to have fun, but understand that you have to work hard, and you can't say that you want a D1 scholarship or a D2 scholarship or play at the next level without putting the time in. I think right now, even though we like for kids to play multiple sports, sometimes, kids never have an opportunity to really hone in on one thing, even if it's, 2 seasons away, you know what I mean? But as coaches, we're kind of handcuffed to a certain degree. We don't want to turn a kid off because obviously we need athletes. But, for the kids, if we can just get the kids to understand we're building something, they are at the forefront of that. It's a new day, and we have to bring a different mindset and attitude every day that we come here. And the school spirit, unbelievable. So, I know that, the stakes are high and everybody's excited about, John Champe basketball. They've always had, a great program. Just ball didn't bounce the right way in a couple of, games. And, a few years ago they had Dom Fagala, who, had he played one more game, he might have broken Allen Iverson's record. So it's the school has, that rich culture. What I hope to try to bring to it is some structure and some boundaries, but also, to command a certain level of consistency, so that, people, when we walk in the gyms right now, you can ask any coach, in the state, like, who is John Champe? Like, what do you have to be worried about? There's no answers there, and I think that we need to start giving people things to be concerned about.
The state of youth basketball today, is it more healthy and beneficial for kids today than it was when you first got in coaching, or is it worse?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Just because, I think a lot of it has a lot to deal with passion. I think, it's not in a good state right now when we look at everything for broad scope. But I do think we've made some changes to get better within the last few years. Reclassification is out of control. And for just cause, I think, it should happen, but not happen just to happen, because your kid didn't get playing time. And some people may say, I'll go on the record, some people may say, that reclassification is my fault, because, Riverdale, we had it, there was nobody else doing it, but when at Coastal, we did it. College coach comes to me and say, hey, back then there was nothing stopping a kid from taking a class over, or replacing, grades from, or merging grades together and taking the higher of the two. I mean, now it's just to be 19 and to have a better chance to get recruited playing against a kid that's doing it the right way. You have kids that are academically sound, student athletes that are doing everything that they're supposed to do, and they're in a situation where they're almost forced to reclass because everybody that they're competing against is 19 while they just turned 18, and then some people are saying, well, you can't play past 19 in high school. Well, that's not stopping anybody, because then that's when private school steps in. Maybe not the WCAC, but you got other private schools out there that will take that in, and then you got the prep school side. So, it makes things hard, but I think if we can just get young people to understand that, put the time in. You need to go to junior college to get another year. You need to go to 4-year university, red shirt. There's nothing wrong with that, and there are things that are in place already, but we live in a microwave state where everybody wants everything right now, and then I think there's too much satisfaction being sought after on the high school level, feeling as though they've accomplished something by sophomore or junior year based on likes or whatever the case may be before they even accomplish college. You know what I mean? Like, there's an interesting, I talk to a group of coaches, and, we have these conversations, and, the stat that's being looked into right now is going to shock the world, because the amount of kids that are eligible in the summer playing in AAU tournaments, the amount of kids that are ineligible playing in AAU tournaments right now are taking all of that attention that a kid that is extra away. I mean, they're still in that time. And then when the coaches go to get them, then that kid has to go to prep school. Then they're scrambling looking for other kids and things of that nature. So, it's a mess right now to a certain degree, and it's not everywhere, but it's in enough places. And then you have reclass kids, and then you got double reclass. You know what I mean? So, it's tough. And what's scary is you have some parents that don't know sports, and then they say, "Oh, well, that's what we got to do."
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I just ask that everybody educate themselves via the NCAA, because they're going to tell you the truth, as well as the college that's recruiting you or your counselor.
My last final question for you is,
Sure.
As far as the teaching of basketball nowadays, I was saying that trainers is like McDonald's, is one on every corner right now. It didn't used to be like that. You used to have to be a coach or have some type of resume to really teach kids, but now anybody can get a follower, pop up, have kids come through. Do you feel like the overall quality of teaching the game is up to par from trainers and skill coaches, as compared to like yesteryear before social media and all this hit?
I think that coaches have a problem with a lot of trainers. One, the trainer doesn't take time out to develop the kid based on what the coach sees fit that kid needs to work on. The trainer is going down what they think is best. And then the trainer takes ownership when the trainer's not actually coaching the young man or the young lady. Trainers right now are causing a lot of problems for real training programs, not because they show up, because people will come back. That's not it. It's the misleading portion. Telling kids that they're better than what they really are. Telling kids you don't need to play the post, you need to be on the wing. You don't need to be on the wing, you need to be at the point. Just overall basketball skill development. People don't understand the mental, psychological side of it. So when you're teaching, there has to be some real consistency with, and method of madness in what you're teaching, and you can't give it to them all in one time. And, your repetition is going to determine your reputation. So, a lot of times, a kid will go into a training session, he'll be in there with a whole bunch of cones, a whole bunch of, whatever, and, bungee cords and all these. And that has nothing to do with helping that kid. Sure, they might be better at what they are doing with that particular trainer at that particular time, if they continue to do that. But what does that high school, middle school, elementary coach really need this young man to work on? Sometimes it's just for them to play. Kids don't play on playgrounds anymore, so really trainers need to be quiet, and watch. And that's what I like to do. I like to watch the kids play and then see what their tendencies are. And then say, instead of going right, you need to work on your left. Take every young man or young woman's weakness, make it their strength. You know what I mean? Then their strengths become their weaknesses, but then they can go back to their tendencies. Now you got a complete player. You can't just show them one thing forever and then think that that's going to, elevate them, at whatever school or, whatever program that they're playing in. So, my thing is right now, history. I think that every parent should look at the history of every trainer. If they haven't coached, if they didn't play, and what are their prerequisites? Like, we as parents, we look at education. We want the best universities, we want the best high schools, we want the best of the best, but then when it comes to this, we don't see it as an educational thing. So we put kids in situations where they're not really being educated, and then when they don't make a team or don't get to college or don't get the exposure that they need, then we want to blame the current coach. So, for me, I just think that you just have to look at the bio of the trainer. And if the trainer doesn't have a bio, they don't have a history, they don't have the prerequisites prior to. I'm not saying don't go with them, but I'm just saying just take everything with a grain of salt.
That's a heck of an answer. To sum this up, Cardell, you sniped 2 of my questions, so thank you. But again, great answers. Thank you for your insight, Coach.
No, thank you.
Thank you for coming in. We wish you the best this year. John Champe. Man, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, Octavia, that segment's coming. Not right now.
What segment?
But it's coming up. We're going to get to this fly thing.
I don't know what you're talking
I
about.
don't know if they're flying, but we definitely.
Nah, we just like walking.
You're watching the Focus TV. We'll see you guys in just a minute. Welcome back to the Focus TV. Coach Walter Webb is still with us, so we're gonna get into this Mystic segment. Washington leads the series 2-1. One of the reasons that it's won and the series is not over is something, Cardell, we talked quite a few times about this year. The Mystics don't have many weaknesses, but this particular weakness is something that has troubled no matter several iterations of Mystics teams throughout Coach DeBoat's tenure here. So, I'm gonna give you the floor and let you go.
I mean, it's the physicality. That's the main thing I've always, throughout the season, kind of worried about. And you kind of saw when they came to D.C. the first time during the middle of the season, they beat them. But you couldn't really gauge it because Deladon was out. Right. So you just kind of took it, you just took notice of it. But Cambage, they're basically starting to find themselves, I'm talking about the Aces, their identity that they hoped they would have found early. And I'm pretty sure Lambert wished they would have found earlier when they acquired Cambage. And that's to just dominate teams in the paint, just beat them up, and that's what they do. And if you double down, dig down, and try to stop them, they do have capable shooters. So it's hard. It's like pick your poisons. The thing that kind of bothers me is the Mystics front court. It's not the entire team because the guards are scrappy. You're not gonna rough them. The front court, they act like they don't like to throw their body around, bang a lot. And just because say you're thin, you weigh less, don't mean you can't hold your own. Because I've seen some of the guards like Powers and Cloud get switched on Cambage, and they're a fronter and denier, and they can't throw the pass into her. So why can't the bigs do that more often? And it starts before you even get close to the paint. When they run a basket to basket, for one, Cambage should, or even Asia, they shouldn't be beating all of the bigs from basket to basket and getting easy scores. That's one thing you can eliminate. Okay, and then 2, beat them, out-hustle them or beat them to the spot. So when they trying to set up and post up, you already at the spot and you can push them out further. Now they are on the perimeter having to start over and they're not comfortable. Asia maybe is, but Cambage is definitely not. And we all have seen Cambage, she gets frustrated very easily. So if you take her out of her comfort zone, make her have to work and do things she's not comfortable doing or don't want to do, she'll get frustrated. And then you have a win. The Mystics players don't do that. The front court, and that includes the MVP, Deladon. She could do a better job as well. I know she has her hands full dealing with Asia Wilson. That's a hell of a battle. They playing chess. They've been playing chess the entire series, but they have to step up. And I'm talking about even the reserves. I'm talking about Tiana Hawkins, everybody, and they have to match their physicality. And the fact that Cambage said, what she said after the post game, they don't like it, get in the weight room. If they don't like it, get out the post. Come on, man. Like tonight, it should just be on site. Like nothing needs to be said. Like, all right, you going at them, in their case, womanhood. You putting it. So, and here's some things that I want people to kind of keep an eye on from last game. The Aces shot 35 of 72 in game 3. Out of their 35 makes 23 were inside the paint. Wilson and Cambage combined to shoot 20 for 29 from the floor. Adding Caleb McBride, 6 of 11 shooting, and you have the Aces starting front court combining to shoot 26 of 40 in that game. Hamby came off the bench, another front court, their reserve, shot 4 or 5 from the field. So if you include her and Carolyn Sewell's one make, the Aces front court shot 31 of 46. The rest of the team, majority perimeter players, shot 4 of 26. That means Washington was just clearly just dominating in the paint. There was no resistance. That's how you have Cambage talking reckless in the post game. Only Tyler and Deladon showed up last game offensively. The Aces out-rebounded Washington 40-28. The Mystics have yet to win a rebounding battle this series. That's another thing about physicality. So you're already at a disadvantage with that. And also, the bigs attack the bigs more, get to the free throw line. They're settling for too many jumpers. The Aces have shot 51-59 from the free throw line during the first 3 games of the series. The Washington and Mystics have shot 39-42. So they're already at a 17-shot deficit. But they don't miss free throws, so you're missing opportunities not only to get easy points, but to get their bigs and foul trouble, which push them on the bench and makes it easier for you. You don't have to bang as much, and that's the other side of not being aggressive and being physical. So you have to match their physicality, which will basically you being aggressive, and then everything will kind of flow even on offense. And like Meesman, she disappointed me because you've been killing it. Now you're scared to take shots all of a sudden because you took a couple of elbows or something. Latoya Sanders, you a mid-range sniper. You don't miss. And all of a sudden, Cambage throw a couple of elbows, and now you just missing. You not even close now. That's a mental focus thing. And what I mean by being tougher, it's not just physical, even mentally and emotionally. They have to match it, or there's going to be a series where they come back here for Game 5, and anything can happen.
No, you're completely right. And the saddest part about it was we saw Latoya, who's usually not very emotional. She played very physically in Game 2.
Yeah.
We saw that from her, from Emma. Emma putting the ball on the floor, attacking the paint. There was like at least 2 very physical drives by Emma that resulted in hit ones. And that's the most frustrating thing about the Mystics. It's not that they can't do it. It's what saddens me with them is that they have to wait until their backs are pushed against the wall, specifically talking about their bigs, because they're capable.
Yeah.
Sanders with the length. She had a 2K animation type block in Game 2. They're fully capable. And as for the Aces, the only thing that I worry about, I know they had a good Game 3, is I understand you had a good Game 3. You staved off elimination. There's no reason to be talking reckless after one game. I understand that's like your coach's mentality. He's not out on the floor. And then they kind of try to walk it back a little bit the following day, which disappointed me too, because I'm kind of like, if you're going to take that stance, own that stance. Once you went there, you went there. You told a bunch of grown women to get in the weight room. Stand on it. It's fine.
And that wasn't even the worst one. See,
No, it wasn't. Yeah, there's another one. There's another one, which was like.
That's what I'm looking at. Like,
which was
after Mystics, so you gotta be on site. Like, all right, I gotta get you. Like, I'm ready. Like, all the little stuff Asia. Cambage talked about mental. I'm gonna go there during the game. I'm gonna mess you up. I'm gonna try to mess you up because see, you ain't have to do that. When we won, Emma just saying, "Hey man, we just playing our game. We kept it humble. Now you done took it." So now I gotta go there. I gotta make it personal on the court.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna try to get in your head so you get frustrated. Because you see that with him when a couple calls don't go her way. She like after Game 1, Lambert was pissed at her.
Dude, he took her out for most of the third because she's not running back. Throws the head back. Get back in transition. And that's the worst part about it when you talked about letting the Mystics, letting their bigs beat them down the floor. There's no big on the Mystics that has an issue running up and down the court. There's not one.
They don't
all
want
of them are
bang.
fully
That's
capable.
why they looking like that. They don't, that's all it is. They're like, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna hide the fact I don't want to bang. But
and that's the other thing is, I'm very curious to see if he hits the Maisha button tonight.
Yeah.
Because of the physicality, the powers button. Just because, like you said, Maisha doesn't have the height, but she's very athletic and she has no issue throwing her weight around. Yeah, she's going to hit you, and she enjoys it. It's in their family, but. The other thing, and this was crazy, EDD not getting unanimous MVP. Some people you have to take ownership for your decisions. If you are one of those privileged people that does get a vote, be responsible. Don't be reckless.
Don't be
take your personal things aside out of it. I love Courtney Vandersloot. She's not the best player on her own team. Chicago doesn't make the jump they make this year without one Diamond DeShields, who's killing right now for the USA team. Because she's picking up where she left off this year, because she's been that special, that dynamic. And then also, can't forget the Connecticut Sun. They completed a sweep LA Sparks. They got rid of a player that went to LA, swept them, moved on, got better addition by subtraction. And I mean, I'm not going to go any deeper than that, but the Sun are waiting on the winner of this series. Octavia, fly, Eagles, fly. Let's get it.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah. This is about to be the shortest NFL segment.
Definitely, because we don't have much to talk about. Week 3, NFL. NFC East looks a little crazy, which is every year. I don't know why I'm surprised. But the Giants definitely pressed a button this week as well. Sat Eli Manning down, and the rookie Daniel Jones took over. The Giants beat the Bucs 32-31. The Giants are now 1-2. They're 0-1 in the division as of now. Their next game is going to be next week against the Redskins. Daniel Jones finished 23-36, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 carries, 28 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Saquon Barkley had 8 carries for 10 yards. Wayne Gellman had 5 carries for 13 yards. Evan Ingram, 6 receptions, 113 yards, 1 touchdown. And Sterling Shepard also had 7 receptions, 100 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 carries for 21 yards. Notable, Saquon Barkley went out close to the end of the second quarter. He, from what I've heard, is right now out for 4 to 6 weeks. He's in a walking boot. He's on crutches. He has a high ankle sprain. It's not a good look, especially with the new quarterback coming in. So Gallman is definitely going to have to step up and take more of the carries, because without that, everybody knows they're going to go to the air. But the Daniel Jones era definitely had a great start. Definitely showed why the Giants picked him. I don't know what took them so long to put him in. The Giants have been on this Eli train for a while. No disrespect to him, probably getting the Hall of Fame and everything like that, but I believed his time was up. Daniel Jones was responsible for 4 touchdowns this game. He threw 2, ran 2. He threw a 75-yard bomb to Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram has come into his own this year so far, especially, everybody was worried about OBJ leaving, and Ingram was definitely injured a lot last year, so it was good to see him back in the fold and, doing really, really well. And before Saquon went out, like I said, he did only have 8 carries for 10 yards. So they actually was kind of keeping him, together. He didn't do too much. The Bucs defense, you could tell they honed in on the fact, like, you're not going to beat us. We're going to make everybody else beat us if that's what happens, and cool. And they actually had a chance to still win the game. Field goal kickers are still a hot commodity out here in the NFL. If you got a good one, hold on to them, because
Bay's luck with kickers, though.
it is rough if you are a kicker. But like I said, they'll play the Redskins next week. Cowboys played the Dolphins. The Cowboys are now 3-0, 2-0 in the division. They beat the Dolphins 31-6. They play the Saints this Sunday. Dak Prescott, 19 of 32, 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 2 carries for 7 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Elliott had 19 carries, 125 yards. Tony Pollard had 13 carries for 103 yards and 1 touchdown. And Amari Cooper, 6 receptions, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns. Everybody's very, very high on Dallas right now, as they should be. This is not me being a hater today. They look good. But I still think that in the beginning of this game, it was very uncharacteristic for them, to come out. You already know you're playing against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are unloading talent left and right, so they're kind of tanking for the year. If you don't know that by now, I don't know what you're watching. But the Cowboys are 3-0 for the first time since 2008. It's a big thing for them. They were only up 10-6 at halftime. They had 8 penalties for 100 yards in the first half. So, like I said, they had definitely an uncharacteristic, first half. Dak threw an interception, and he's been pretty much spot on as the year has, gone on so far. But their rushing game was really, really well. Like I said, you had 2 running backs going over 100 yards. It's the first time since 1998 with Emmitt Smith and Chris Warren. Like I said, they had a sloppy first half, but it was the Dolphins, so it was expected that they should win. They're 3-0 at this point. But in my opinion, Kellen Moore is the real MVP of this team. Babyface and all came in there and got their offense together, got Dak looking like he deserved the money that he wants. So,
looking like? You don't think he deserved it? See the eagle, see the eagle.
He
right
looks-
there.
I
She
mean,
gotta
it's
pay
only
attention.
3
She's so shady, so slick. She slick
It's
with
only
it.
3 games,
See?
and they haven't really played top tier caliber teams yet. Don't get me wrong. I'm not downplaying any of their wins because you got to play the team that's in front of you, and those are the teams that are in front of you. And you do what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to win, so they should get no slack for that. They 3-0, but I want to see how it progresses.
Now to the
Yeah. How did you know I was going there next?
only one more team to talk about. Let's go.
Yeah. So the Philadelphia Eagles played the Lions. Eagles 24, Lions 27. The Eagles are now 1-2. I'm glad we weren't here last week, so I didn't talk about that game. But their next game is going to be Thursday against Green Bay. It's not getting any easier. Carson Wentz was 19 of 36, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 carries for 33 yards. Miles Sanders, 13 carries, 53 yards, 2 receptions, 73 yards, and 2 fumbles. I'm going to throw that in there too. Jordan Howard, 11 carries, 37 yards, 1 touchdown. Zach Ertz, 4 receptions, 64 yards. Matt Collins, 4 receptions, 62 yards. Nelson Aguilar, 8 receptions, 50 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, this whole game was just riddled by drops. Just anywhere you thought somebody should drop it, they dropped it. It happened all over the field. It was ridiculous. You never see how much you like, because in the beginning of the year, I feel like we had a good receiving core, but as soon as the top 2 got hurt, everybody else forgot how to play and catch the ball. You know, Nelson Aguilar has had these issues in the past, but we thought we corrected them when they put him in the slot. It ain't really helping right now. Now, he did redeem himself, but I mean, these are balls that are like in your hand. Like, I don't know what's happening. Carson had no help. Carson did everything he could do. If they're not catching the balls, and then our defense ain't helping either on the backside, you know, our secondary is trash. I'm sorry to say it. Our secondary is trash. Outside of Malcolm Jenkins at this point, blocking the field goal was amazing. Malcolm, you're the real MVP as of now, but we need the rest of them to get their lives together.
You got help coming.
Whenever it gets here,
Nate, my man Nate coming back.
he can sit. Miles Sanders, 2 fumbles in the same drive. It kind of killed me. You know, the first one they recovered, the second one it went away. It was just all around just bad. Too many penalties. 3 offensive pass interferences. You know, on Darren Sproles had the one at the end of the game, and Matt Collins had 2, which would have been 3. They almost called the third one, but they revisited it. But yeah, they played the Packers this week. It ain't gonna get no easier. And I actually just looked at our schedule for the rest of the year. It ain't too many like layups on that joint, so it's a little bit rough
So
right
you
now.
wanna be with us?
It's looking like it. It's looking like it. Unless everybody, you know, we have a lot of injuries too. Timmy Jernigan is hurt. You know, Malik Jackson broke his foot. Alshon will be back this week. Dallas Goedert dropped the ball right in his hands as well. He was a game time decision, and I think that was the only target he had that game. He barely even played the game, and the one target he got, he dropped. It was just all around just bad. Just bad. I didn't even want to watch it anymore. And lastly, stop laughing at me.
It's hilarious.
It's the truth. But we were not outdone for the worst game of the week.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry. The Redskins played the Bears. The Redskins are now 0-3, 0-2 in the division. They lost to the Bears 31-15. It was bad. Case Keenum was 30 of 43, 332 yards, 3 interceptions. 2 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Adrian Peterson, 12 carries, 37 yards. I get Chris Thompson, 7 carries, 29 yards. Paul Richardson, 8 receptions for 83 yards. To me, the only bright spot for them is Scary Terry. To come in, you know, people pegging him to be on the special teams and whatnot, and to come in and lead the way he has been, he's been the bright spot for them. I'm still very confused that there hasn't been a firing yet, anywhere, at all, because it was bad, you know. 3 picks. Josh Norman is continuously getting burnt this year. I don't know what's happening. I mean, he did get an interception, but, I mean, he's been burnt every game this year by somebody, and it's been bad. There's really nothing to say about the Redskins at this point. You
Okay.
know, so we could go ahead and wrap that up.
Right, we will. So thanks for the NFL segment.
You're welcome.
It's
It happened.
mighty petty.
We'll
of you.
try again next week.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Jamal Hayward's back with the 61st installment of the 9-4-50 breakdown. This week, Jamal Hayward is showing off a mid-post move. Again, it is a mid-post move.
All right, today we're going to work on a mid-post move. It's called a bump fade. So you can do it on any side. So I'm going to start on this wing here. So you get the ball in the mid-post. Middle foot is the right foot. So here, so there in the court. Once I take one dribble, I'm only taking one dribble. So bump, fade. So it's a bump, hop, fade. So a bump, hop, fade. Here it is, next fade. All right, today we're going to work on a mid-post move. It's called a bump fade. So you can do it on any side. So I'm going to start on this wing here. So you get the ball in the mid-post. Middle foot is the right foot. So here, so there in the court. Once I take one dribble, I'm only taking one dribble. So bump, fade. So it's a bump, hop, fade. So a bump, hop, fade. Here it is, next fade.
Welcome back. Before we close out tonight's show, can't leave without talking about DC United. The Black and Red beat the visiting Seattle Sounders 2-0 at home this past Sunday night. Lucas Rodriguez scored in the first half, and Frederick Briand scored in the second half off a set piece taken by Mr. Wayne Rooney. DC United is on a 3-game win streak, currently 4th in the East. They did make the playoffs. They had a little, midseason struggle, but they closed strong, and they're one of the teams where, despite what's going on, it's going to be hard to put them up. It's too much talent. And there's going to be a lot of pride involved right now. It's Wayne's last year. We don't know what's going to happen upstairs, period, with what's going on. There's a lot of rumors. But they finish up the regular season October 6th when they host FC Cincinnati. This Sunday, they head up to New York to take on one of their arch nemesis in the New York Red Bulls. Thank you guys for tuning in. We are so grateful that you guys provide us with your continued support. Thank you, Coach Walter Webb, for coming through tonight. I definitely enjoyed the conversation. And, Mystics coverage this week, it's about that time of the year when everything's about to be going on at the same time. Make sure you guys keep up with us this week for Penn State, Maryland preview. Cardell does a great in-depth job with those. And we'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, right here on the Focus TV, DC TV.